joined from Moscow by the writer and political researcher, Dr. Rami Al Quloubi. Thank you very much for being with us and welcome to Q News. So what do you make of these recent Russian strikes against Ukraine using these long-range missiles?
Actually, this missile launch is on sort of a message to the West, because this Oreshnik missile is able to achieve any goal in Europe, and it's quite hard to prevent it from achieving the goal because it's supersonic. So now the message is that we are ready to move on the stair of escalation. We don't wish that, so let's achieve some agreement on Ukraine.
And do you think the new Russian strikes will change the dynamics of the war in Ukraine?
What will change the war in Ukraine is the inauguration of the new president, or an elected president, Donald Trump, in January. But for the moment, the goal is to make sure that the West understands the Russian red lines. During the last few years, the West provided HIMARS missiles and Abrams tanks and F-16 aircraft for Ukrainian forces, and Russia did nothing. So the West got the impression that he can continue to provide Ukraine with the most modern weapons, and Russia will do nothing. But the last point for Russia was when the United States, France, and the UK gave a green light to Ukraine to use missiles to strike Russian territory. So at that moment, Russia announced that modification of nuclear doctrine, and after that, Russia had to prove that by some move on the stairs of escalation. Of course, without achieving the highest step, which is the use of nuclear weapons, but the message is clear for the West.
And things have certainly, as you mentioned, things have certainly escalated. Do you think there's any chance that this war could extend beyond the borders of Ukraine and into Europe?
I don't think so, because actually the West is ready to fight with Russia with Ukrainian soldiers' hands, but the Western countries and societies will never accept to send their own soldiers to Ukrainian territory, because actually these countries in the West, they have a political model of liberal democracy, which makes possible to change the authorities through elections. And in case if there are some European soldiers are killed in Ukraine, this will be a political end and no political future for the current leaders in Europe. And there are some Russian experts say that now there is a state of strategic parasitism in Europe, because Europe had not witnessed any serious wars since 8 decades. So now they start to treat wars like a computer game on some other territory. But at the moment they feel that Russia can achieve them, they will reconsider their politics. This is what Russia hopes to achieve now.
And so how will Western powers like Europe and the United States, how will they respond, do you think, to these new Russian strikes?
At the moment, I think they will provide more weapons for Ukraine, and this is quite expected because now the Biden administration is in some sort of rail with time before Trump comes to the White House, to make for him difficult to change politics. But on the long run, of course, when Trump, who is a businessman more than a politician, of course, when he arrives to the White House, he will suggest some deal that would include Ukraine. But however, there is a risk that he will not be able to win or achieve a victory upon the American deep states, which is unified in its animosity towards Russia. So, however, to to be honest, we cannot be sure that Trump will end the war immediately.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. That was the writer and political researcher, Dr. Rami Al Quloubi. Thank you very much for being here on Q News.